Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Transforming Lives. My name is Tony Kimball. I'll be your host tonight, and I'm excited about tonight. Tonight, I have a special gentleman that's going to join us tonight. But before I get there, share this. If you're going to comment, here's what I need you to do. I need you to give permission. All you got to do when you put that comment, give Facebook permission to post it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share your post on the show. So make sure you do that. Make sure you hit the thumbs. Make sure you put the likes, put the heart, so we know that you're out there. We want to welcome everybody that has shown up and the people that will be coming on. And again, this is Transforming Lives. And we're just, talking to genuine people with real lives. And our goal is to talk to people in the community and to share their story. And by sharing their story, what they do is they help bring transformation to those that are around them. Guys, our hot topic tonight is education. I know everyone that's sitting in that seat of being an educator, whatever capacity you hold, it's a new normal, right? So there's different things we have to do. When I begin to think about education, I think about those that have influenced my life. I began thinking about people like Annie Covington that led me to go back to go and become a teacher. I think about Elois Nicholson. I think about Don Russell, the professor that showed up and began to talk to me about making the transition into education. I think about a lady that made me change my whole direction of my philosophy, Barbara Daugherty, Dr. Barbara Daugherty. She made me change how I was doing and what I was doing in the class. I think about people named Carla Kirkland giving me the opportunity to be where I am right now. Dr. Robert Mack changed how I thought about education, guys. It's amazing. Those people fall into my top 10 people that have influenced me, guys. Well, tonight, guys, I have a gentleman that definitely I admire. I can't wait to get him on. He's definitely blazing the trail. He's definitely having an impact on those that are around him. And I just kind of want to read some information about him. Thomas E. Parker was named superintendent for Allentown School District in December 2016. And he started the district in July 1st, 2017. But guys, since he's joined the district, he's prepared students for the college and career readiness with emphasis on the middle school transformation, the critical component of student success. And his leadership has led them to the first place Magna Award for Equality program at the Newcomer Academy. Guys, that's not the only place he's been. He's been in Ecorse public school, where he reconstructed the district to become more efficient and financially solid. He's implementing several district-wide initiatives that focus on improving student achievement. And that's what it's about, with an emphasis on closing student achievement, underachieving groups. He has numerous programs that resulted in Ecorse being recognized as one and only district in Michigan, hear this, with 100% school-to-home technology program. Guys, that's amazing. He served in several capacities. He has an educational specialist from Eastern Michigan. He has a master's of art from the University of Michigan. I didn't tell him, but I love Michigan. Go Wolverines. And he has a bachelor's degree from Howard University in Washington, D.C., guys. Guys, I'd like to bring to this platform an amazing gentleman, Superintendent Thomas E. Parker. Sir, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Sir, I'm excited to have you on. I forgot to tell you about Michigan. I rock with Michigan, sir. That's my school. Been there since 97.
Oh, yeah. And nothing wrong with a little Go Blue.
Okay. All right. Indeed. So I want to start out by asking you this question. Where did you grow up? Where did Thomas E. Parker? Tell us about you growing up. That's my first question to you tonight, sir.
All right. Well, you already know. Anybody that knows Thomas knows that the first thing you'll learn about me is I was born and raised in Tillatoba, Mississippi. And I teach everyone that I talk to that my village raised me. Growing up in Tillatoba and being a part of, that small rural community that was connected to other communities it really set the foundation for who I am and everything that I've done in life. I love to tell the story. I grew up, we didn't have a whole lot of money. I had my parents, my folks, my family, large extended family that looked after each other, but we didn't have a whole lot of money. I was a Head Start baby, and worked through through not work that I did. I had opportunities that came my way because other people in that community invested in me, because they were invested in that next generation of young people to be successful. Some of the people that you mentioned at the top of the show, you know, I could go down a list of teachers from Oakland to Coffeyville who invested in me and ensured that they kicked my tail on a daily basis to make sure that I achieved the opportunities that were set out for me.
Absolutely. And that's important. You know, we sometimes people say that, you know, you hear the terminology self-made. No, sir. Somebody stepped in and they provided something for us to get us to this particular point. So that's definitely important. Tillatoba, Coffeyville. Yeah, yes, sir. Coffeyville School District. So go ahead, sir.
No, I would say so when you talk about being self-made versus being made by your community, I'm made by my village. I remember growing up with my dad, and we were at different churches every Sunday. He was a deacon in the church, but we were also community members. I think of the impact that Reverend Keeler had on me growing up as a pastor and also as a teacher, where his wife was also a teacher, and Miss Otis was the teacher that was also the pianist at the church. So if something were to happen in school, it better happen on Monday so that they forget what happened by the time Sunday rolls around.
Right.
There was a loop back in that community that allowed the children growing up there to understand that the adults had a communication network. And if you were to do something positive, it was going to make it back home. And if you're going to do something negative, it was going to make it back home. But that foundation really set the tone. And when we talk about the work that I've been engaged and involved in, it mirrors trying to create the type of environment that I had the opportunity to grow up in for the children that we serve right now.
And that's amazing when you talk about a village. That's important. This whole village that's directing you. So, you know, the next thing I want to ask you is, you know, let's talk about, you spoke about village. You named a numerous amount of people that have helped you come along. I want the listeners to hear the story from you transitioning from high school, and feel free to share anything about high school, your transition from high school to college.
Oh, this is one of my favorite stories. I hope my daughter's watching because she's heard it a million times. Because I was the stuff in high school, man. I'll tell them in a heartbeat. I graduated third in my class, except for there was only 30 people in there, so it wasn't too much to get to third. It was only 30 people, but I did pretty well in high school. I was blessed to, you know, understand and do a little bit of work and still make it and be successful. I had the opportunity my senior year to take the SAT test and get a scholarship, and that gave me an opportunity to go to Howard University. Not at all what I was expecting to happen in life, but the counselor, Ms. Brown, directed me to the opportunity to take the test. Ultimately got a scholarship to go to Howard, and that took me out of Mississippi. Now I was headed to Alcorn State. I was signed, sealed, and delivered to go to Alcorn, and then ended up with a scholarship to Howard. But just that one shift, I think, changed the trajectory and the promise that was on my life and what I was meant to do. I was going to Alcorn, and I was going to major in forestry. I was going to wear those little shorts. But when the opportunity came and I had the opportunity to take the scholarship to Howard, I had no idea what I was going to do, but I knew it was an opportunity that people had invested in me from way back when. And now I had a chance to fulfill that promise by taking this opportunity. Man, my first year at Howard. Now, remember, I'd gone from doing pretty well at Coffeyville. I was, pretty high up in the class. I didn't work real hard, but I did enough.
Right,
and
right.
I made it to Howard. And oh, by the way, Kamala Harris, next vice president, Howard University alum. I want to make sure I some love there. So I made it to Howard, and right. I remember my first algebra test. I made an 11. And I went to talk to the professor to find out, was that 11 out of what? And it was 11 out of 100. I never made an 11. And it kind of set me back a bit, right? It sent me reeling because I had come from a space where I was highly successful and landed in a space where I wasn't able to transition to keep up and compete in a meaningful way. And I remember there was Dr. Weinstein, who was in the political science department at Howard. And I went and had a conversation with him because I was struggling, and my self-esteem was low because I saw myself coming from Little Old Tillatoba. And now I'm in a space where I'm competing with folks from New York and New Jersey and California and international. I was in a class with somebody from Cape Verde. I had no clue. And Dr. Weinstein told me something that changed my life. He told me to stop feeling sorry for myself because he saw my background as the positive, whereas other people were learning how to transition into this world and may have come from big cities. I came from a space where I had a community and a village that had fortified me to be able to address the challenges that I was facing. So I just had to make the mental transition from being the big fish in a little pond to the little fish in a big pond that still needs to swim. So that changed my life because it told me to have a different level of value for the experiences I've had and to know that I was as good as and able to compete with anybody because of the folks that invested in me back in my days in Tillatoba. And I never forgot that. And once I had that conversation and reset, I was able to put in the work so that I could compete and know that I was able to compete. And that's what I try to instill in the students that I serve each and every day. Your village has fortified you to prepare to compete with anybody on any level. So if you value your village and you understand the people that have invested in you and have the promise, you're able to be successful.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's important because sometimes people don't know your story. Yeah, that 11. I'm a math teacher, so I don't know.
I really wanted to know, was that 11 out of 20? It was an 11%.
Oh, sorry.
That was the shock. That was Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan till they get hit in the mouth, right? So that was me getting hit in the mouth and being humbled so that I knew now that I had to put in the work. And that's key. If you're not willing to invest the time, energy, and effort to be successful, then your good looks and great attitude is only going to take you so far.
That's amazing. And I think sometimes, a lot of times when we're working with teenagers, middle schoolers, high schoolers, even when they get to college, until that reality hits, you get that wake-up call. And I had it. I'm sure all that are on that have had that wake-up call to say, look, yeah, you were that big fish in that small pond, but this pond, this diameter of this pond has grown. It's not, you're not there. You're not
the challenge our kids face now, though, is that that wake-up call, that reckoning comes for us all. But when it hits you, you have to be able to respond and still have the confidence to come back and be successful. A lot of our children just don't have that village because of poverty, because of socioeconomic status, because of home situations, whatever those issues are. that resilience, that ability to kind of get hit and step back to the fight. A lot of our children really become challenged there. So as educators, as a math teacher, it's incumbent upon us to create the space for them to have those challenges and be the village in places where they may not see that village truly exist.
Absolutely. That's important. That's where you build your character.
Absolutely.
When Mike hits you now, you gotta have something, or Mike gonna continue to hit you.
Absolutely.
So you're speaking about village. So let's talk about the people within your village. You know, who has been the biggest influence on your life, or who has had the largest influence on your life?
So I mean, I could go down the list, right? It always comes back and starts with my mom, right? My mom has been my rock for years and years and years, right? She has been, there's three of us, my brother, my sister. She has been there for us even after my dad passed. She has been absolutely spectacular. My dad was a great influence. I've never seen a more caring and helpful person. I remember one day, and we went to church every Sunday. One day we were headed to church for some reason. Someone came up and needed some help. We were loaded in the car, had my Sunday suit on and everything. And my dad said, okay, everybody get out of the car, go in the house. I need to go help this person. I think he needed to get some cows back in the pasture or something.
Mm-hmm.
But the lesson was, even though we had something to do that was important to the family, there was somebody in need, somebody that needed some help and support. And that was prioritized over what it is that was important or happy for us. So setting that tone at an early age was critical for me. But then when you think of that expanded village, my uncles, my aunts, that were really critical in helping me learn and grow. Community people. I remember, and they probably don't even remember as well as I do. I remember the Yalobusha County Association for Better Education. I remember the Mr. Hortons. I remember the Mr. Sheltons. I remember the Mr. Swearingens. I remember the NAACP in Yalobusha County, because they set a tone, they set a foundation, they built a village where I may not have been their child, but there was an expectation for me as a young man in that community to still show a level of respect and engagement for all. So how do we build that village to ensure that we're all setting that clear expectation that we support all kids? I learned that from my village back home. And then as we walk into education, I learned how to be an educator from Mary Green. Now, Mary Green was a counselor at Cleveland Middle School, and I know great educators. But my first year as a teacher, I remember I wrote two kids up because they were cutting up in my class. They were doing something. I was teaching middle school on the east side of Detroit, and these kids did something. And I'm 21 years old. I go right, Mom. I take them down to the office. About 5 minutes later, Mary Green walks up to my office and says, "Mr. Parker, these children respect me already. So you don't need to send them to me. You're the person that's having a problem. You need to figure out how to get them to respect you in this classroom. So I'm going to sit them right here, and then you come see me later." And it changed the way I learned to engage children as an educator. It wasn't about the punishment because you didn't respect the space that I was teaching in. Mm-hmm. It was about me problem solving how to get you to be in the space that I was in. So I visited both of their homes that day, and I knocked on the door, and I didn't call first either. I just knocked on the door. Yeah. It changed the trajectory of my classroom because now the kids were saying, "Oh, Mr. Parker, A, he cares about us because he took time out of his schedule to come talk to our mom, and B, that dude is crazy. He'll show up." They understood. He will show you show up. You show out in class. He's going to show up at your house that day. It changed the way I perceived the way I support children, and it shifted for them their view of how this young Black man was going to be an educator and a teacher in that classroom. So lots of learning. Gladys Stoner as a principal really taught me how to kind of think my way around the work. And there's been lots of people that have been my village that have helped build me into the educator that I am today.
Wow, that's powerful. That and children, that emotional state, they it seems as though they're acting up, but they're finding their place in your life as an educator. They're going to see, are you leaving? Can I trust you? Do you really care about me? That's key. I'm glad you said that. Oh man, sir, that's powerful.
And they want to know what you're made of.
Right.
They need to know that, we talked about resilience on the part of kids and their ability to, bounce back when there's resistance. Kids need to know that you as an adult are willing to invest the emotional energy to bounce back when they bring resistance as well. Because if they bring resistance and you bring discipline every time, then there's going to be a challenge with the level of relationship that you all have. So, I didn't even know what restorative practices was back then. I just knew that I needed to figure out how to get these kids to engage. But it was restorative practices on a much smaller level, finding ways that I could engage them in a meaningful dialogue, starting with their parents around what success looked like for them in class. Right. And then we could move forward on a more cohesive level.
Absolutely. That's important, because if there are tools that are missing, you can't expect them to bring these tools out of the air. You have to establish, build their toolbox so that they're able to make better decisions. They're able to, make those better choices. Yeah, absolutely, sure. I agree with you wholeheartedly. So you're beginning to talk about you as a beginning educator. Now my question is, did you see yourself becoming a superintendent?
Well, so I'll go back to the days of forestry, because I told you I was going to wear the little shorts. I was going to be a forester. I had no desire to go into education whatsoever. It just wasn't on my radar. And I became an educator almost by accident. At Howard University, one of the requirements is that you have to take swimming in order to pass. And I couldn't swim to save my life. I took swimming, and I remember I had on the Speedos on the first day. Yeah. And the teacher said, you have to push off the wall and float. I said, hey, I can't push off the wall. I can't float. So he said, push off the wall and float. So I pushed off the wall and sank. And as I was descending to my watery grave, I heard him say, don't help him, let him get out on his own. So I was distressed because I could have drowned. Now, when I stood up, I was only in 3 feet of water. So I was okay. but I wasn't going back to that class. I went to psychological services that day and talked to the counselor about the fact that I wasn't taking that class. And he actually connected me to a kind of a profile for career, because I didn't have a major yet. And that just kind of started a dialogue that really pushed me into thinking about what my next steps were. I knew that I wanted to be in a place where I could serve and build a career around serving people. Education fit. So I started going into the School of Education and ultimately enrolled in graduate, and that was at Howard, enrolled in graduate school at the University of Michigan with the intent to gain a PhD in educational policy, because I know I wanted to impact students on a large level. But something was in me that said, you need to teach first. So I started teaching. I left Michigan after my master's degree and went to Detroit because I wanted to teach, and I wanted to teach in where reform was needed and necessary. Right. So I started teaching in Detroit And I mean, when I tell you I fell in love with Cleveland Middle School, I had a group of kids that were dynamic, and I was planning to leave after a year, get my teaching experience, and go back to school. But they were seventh graders, and I couldn't leave until I saw them through their eighth grade year. Like, those were my kids. So I stayed, and like my career just kept progressing in terms of going into administration. I had a principal at the time, Garnett Green, who really pushed me into becoming a quasi administrator, and it just kind of rolled. I love the work that I was able to do in Detroit, in really changing conditions to allow students to have an opportunity to excel, no matter what the socioeconomic status of the school was that we were working in. So I think the next logical step for me was, well, let's see what this superintendent thing is really all about, because I want to be able to impact students on an increasingly large level. And my frustrations as a principal with not being able to manage resources was something that I could address as a superintendent. So I had the opportunity, after a stint as a principal for about 4 years, to become superintendent in Ecorse, Michigan. It was a small district, only about 1,100 kids, but had some really significant challenges similar to Detroit, where I was prior. And I had the opportunity to really work with a community there that wanted to see the best for its children. No matter where you go, no matter what the conditions are in the schools, one thing is clear: the adults in that community want the best outcomes for their kids. They may not have the ability to pay for it. They may not have, there may be a language barrier where they can't always say it. Like, all of these things may be there, but every community wants the best for their kids. And if you show that that's what you're interested in, they'll embrace you, and you can make some significant transformation. And that's the work that I did in Ecorse. And really, as I transitioned to Allentown, which is 17,000 students, it's the third largest city in Pennsylvania, and a district that has an absolute dynamic community that is invested in the best interests of its children, but has some financial challenges, some long-standing financial challenges, and some community transition in terms of race and class in this environment. A lot of issues that need to just be tackled and addressed. But to a person, our community, our parents want the best for their children and are looking for someone who has that like interest. And if you find that person, you work collaboratively to do some dynamic things. And I think that's what we've been doing here in Allentown, is really putting in some dynamic pieces of work that are going to support children accessing this American dream for years and years to come. We're helping to forge that village, the one that I had growing up. We're helping to forge that same village here in Allentown.
And that's important. And I commend you in taking on that role as a partitioner. That's important, because once you get into the classroom, you understand the means of policy. You understand what's needed when you step into that role. So I definitely commend you for that. And speaking of Allentown, you're not in Coffeyville anymore. You're not in Tiltopia anymore, right? It's a very large school district. I think it's probably as our largest city in Mississippi, I believe. Yeah. So that's yes, sir. You are in the hot seat, as they will call it.
Yeah. So it's a significant district where we're 17,000 kids. I hearken back to what Dr. Weinstein said back in 96 when I was at Howard, right? My village had prepared me for whatever this challenge and opportunity was going to be. And as long as I knew and understood who I am and what I stand for, then those are the same principles that apply. So my time and energy in Detroit, when I was in Detroit, it was 95,000 students in the district. The transition from that large district to, really understanding how districts work during my time in the E-course prepared me. That was the village, right? That prepared me for the opportunity to come in and engage in some systemic transformation in Allentown. So our parents and our community are invested in finding the best opportunities for their children. Everybody wants the best for their kids. We have a school board and nothing happens in school districts without a strong and committed board of education. They set the tone and tenor for what happens in the district. And our school board has committed to equity. It has committed to ensuring that all of the students that we serve receive the best resources available, and they receive them when they need them. That's equity, right? What you need when you need it in order to be successful. And that commitment from our board, plus a community that is aligned and focused on ensuring the best outcomes for kids, really creates the right environment for me as a servant leader, and I count myself as a servant leader, to really come in and bring some ideas, to bring some perspective, and to seek resources that allow us to transform the experiences of our students. So I think of our middle school transformation concept that was funded by the Century Fund and some other local supporters. It's really given us an opportunity to take a step back and more broad look at our middle school experience, and then invest in a significant transformation of the middle school environment, and doing it arm in arm with the teachers, the staff, the parents, and even the parents of the elementary students who will be middle schoolers one day soon. So taking that holistic approach to improving middle grades education is just an example of the significant initiatives that we've been able to undertake because of that level of aligned commitment.
Absolutely. And that's important, because for students, that middle school time frame is so important, because sometimes children, they're going through all these changes, not just academically, but, they're growing up, and it's important that you catch the middle, and you catch the middle with all of the stakeholders. It is important, not just the teachers, but every stakeholder has to have their hand in it, as you spoke about when you talk about a village. So when you're talking about transformation, what are some of the key? I don't want you to reveal all of your secrets, okay? Don't reveal all of your secrets, but could you give us 2 keys to transforming either a school or a district?
All right, so I'll tell you this. I'll tell the secrets because I stole them all, right? There's nothing new under the sun. Everything that I do is what I learned from my village. So when I think of transformation, I stole a lot of this stuff from Gladys Stoner. Don't tell her I said it, but I stole a lot of it from her as a principal, because I saw her transform a school. And the first key to transformation really is commitment of leadership. And when I talk about commitment of leadership, it's not commitment to tell people what to do. It's commitment to whatever needs to happen in a school or in the district to improve conditions. The leaders have to be committed to making that happen. So as a principal, if we have issues with salt on the front steps in the morning because kids are walking to school, then the leader has to be committed to throwing salt if that's what's necessary and critical. So when we talk about leadership commitment, it's by any means necessary what we need to do to improve outcomes for kids. That is absolutely key and important. That leader has to be committed. And then the second piece, in terms of, I think the key, it really is listening. So as a principal, as a superintendent, we rent space in a community that other people have bought land. right? There are parents, there are community members that have been in that community for years and years and years. And we come in with great ideas on how to improve outcomes, etc. Right. But if you don't take time to listen, hear, and understand the challenges and opportunities that a community faces from the people who are in that community, then we run the risk of rolling out really dynamic plans that don't find success because there's not a level of commitment in how it was developed. Here in Allentown, when I arrived, and this was, again, kudos to my board, the board led a development of the strategic framework. We worked with our community, and we didn't ask the community to come to schools. We went out to the community, and we really asked them, what were the strengths, what were the challenges, and what were the opportunities of the school district. And we allowed them to talk, and they began to share their concerns, their fears, and their aspirations. And because we created that opportunity, I think it gave our community a different level of engagement because they crafted everything that's in our strategic framework. So when we talk middle school transformation, it's because we were in the basement of Resurrected Life Church, and our parents, to a person, said we support our elementary schools, but we become challenged when kids transition to middle school. Right. So one of the things we need you to work on is improving the middle school experience, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We heard parents talk about relationships, so we started implementing restorative practices. We heard our business community talk about confidence and trust in the fiscal side of the organization, right? Mm-hmm. So listening to stakeholders becomes key. So if leadership is committed, which means they're going to do everything that's critical and necessary for success, and then they're listening with a keen ear and a keen eye, listening with your eyes, right, to your community, then you have the recipe to know the challenges, know the strengths, and know the opportunities, and then the commitment to do everything that's necessary to address those concerns and find those opportunities that your community has identified.
Absolutely. We're going to pause for a second for this comment. That's Washington here. I don't know if you can see it. Your impact has been and life-changing for our students. Your love and dedication is genuine and appreciated. I'm looking forward to what the future holds. So that right there, live comment, speaks to what you're discussing right now. That's powerful. It's nothing like feedback, positive feedback from Facebook, right?
Yeah, it's not something that happens all the time for people. But one thing that I'll say, and our community here can be absolutely supportive, but they will also call you on the carpet when you're not doing things the right way. So we've tried to build a communication mechanism where we appreciate and thumbs up and support the positivity, but when there is an issue and we're not going in the right direction or cutting the grass in the right way, then we're open to the feedback there as well. And I think that's critical, because as superintendents, we're not going to always get it right. As leaders, we don't always get it right. We make our best effort, but we're not going to always get it right. As we think about opening the schools for next year, there are lots of superintendents and lots of school boards that are making the best decisions that they can with the information that they have, but we're all still making some different decisions. So it won't always be right for everyone.
Correct. Yeah. And everybody, and I spoke about it earlier about this new normal. Nobody's made these type of decisions. Where's the handbook at? Where's the book? Where are the speakers at? No, there's none. So you have to, as you talked about your past experiences, they're the building blocks of, I don't know, but I really know because I've had some experiences that, number one, I have to do what's best for the children in that district. I have to do what's best.
And that's the key, right? So being committed to doing what's necessary and listening. Allentown School District was the first district in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that made the commitment to open the district in virtual for the start of the school year. And it wasn't made with, it wasn't made lightly. It was made with a heavy heart, but we listened to our community.
Right.
Board members listened to their constituents, and we brought that information back to the table. And ultimately, the best decision for our district was to start the year virtual. We know that there are going to be some hiccups and some challenges with that, but we listen to our community, and as leaders, we're committed to doing what's necessary, and sometimes that means making really hard decisions that impact lots of lives. But in order to keep our kids and our community safe, that was kind of the right decision for us in this community. Other superintendents in their communities, they may be getting different feedback and they're making the best decision for their community. So I applaud and support them. But for our community, this was the best decision, and it was made with really listening to the feedback from our parents, from our teachers, from our community.
Absolutely. So when, again, yeah. So again, this is the recent turnover. Thank you again for your commitment. It's definitely important. So when we look at their viewers, I'm sure they're educators that are on, what could you say to them to encourage them to, go for their dreams? It may be a teacher that's on right now, that's in the classroom, maybe a principal that's on, whomever. It doesn't have to be an educator. It could be someone that may be at a role. Give us some knowledge on, what they need to do to pursue those dreams.
Well, so ultimately, for me, it's put in the work and stay the course. If you've identified your passion, your vision, and what you want to do, then there are two things that you need to do. You need to put in the work. You need to put the effort into achieving whatever the goals are that you have. I have an ongoing discussion with my own daughter about putting in the work. And if you put in the work, you'll find success. You may not find success today, but you will find success because you put effort into that vision, and then stay in the course. Again, to the point that you may not find that great opportunity in leadership today. You may have to be in a lower position for a number of years before you break through. I had to go through a number of lower positions before I had that opportunity to break through for my first administrative position. But I stayed the course, and it wasn't because I was so wonderful. It wasn't because I was so talented. It was because I was committed, and I work hard. I've always said there are going to be lots of people who are smarter than me. Mm-hmm. There are going to be lots of people who are better looking than me, but you won't find one that will outwork me. Okay. So my commitment to leadership, my commitment to support for the children I serve is always going to be that I'm going to work harder than the next person in order to be successful in my job and for the children that I serve. And if you can bring that level of commitment to your work, then you will find success. But it really connects back to that commitment to putting in the work and then staying the course for what it is you're looking to receive in life.
Absolutely. That's powerful. That takes you, those principles take you on a long way, because those sometimes become distractions. And it takes you, as you're saying, stay on course. That takes you off course. So absolutely. That's that powerful. So as we're getting to a point of closing, what's one thing I didn't ask you that you would like to share?
Oh, wow. So I'll talk all day long, given the opportunity. But I think for me, I'll circle back, because this is the theme of everything that Thomas Parker does, because what Thomas Parker does is not because Thomas Parker is so good. It's not because Thomas Parker is so talented, It's because I have a community that has invested in me from way back when, Tillatoba, Oakland, Coffeyville, that community that invested in me and helped build this foundation. So our responsibility as educators, as advocates, as community members, as whatever we see ourselves in this world, is to pay it forward and build that same community. If we found success through the community that was built for us, how do we pay it forward as educators so that we can build the same type of community? And it may look different in Allentown. It may look different in Detroit. It may look different in California. But the question is whether there's a network of leaders, a network of people, a network of supporters that are going to fortify the children that we serve, so that even when they come up against Mike Tyson and get hit in the mouth,
right,
they can take a step back and there's somebody back there saying, hey, we've got you. And there were times that my mom and my dad were there and they said, we got you. I have uncles and aunts that said, we've got you. But there was also a larger community that made it a key point to ensure that I knew, my brother, my sister, my cousins, my classmates, that we had folks behind us that were rooting for our success. And if we can duplicate that energy in our urban areas as educators, if we can duplicate that energy in our schools as a principal, I talked about three things: climate, culture, and expectations.
Oh.
We're not talking about schoolwork yet. We're talking about climate, culture, and expectations. Because if we build the right environment, we can increase student achievement. But if you try to increase student achievement and you don't have climate, culture, and expectations of all adults and kids,
right, absolutely,
and you're banging your head against the wall because you haven't created the systems and the environment for success. So I guess my challenge, my vision, my key message in life is we have to acknowledge, appreciate, and honor the village that made us. Correct. And pay that forward and create the same or similar level of engagement and support for the children that we serve.
Absolutely, man. That's great, man. I'm going to stick to this time, man. We get to talking about education, man. I love the conversation. So it's been great. That's important, because I say it all the time. If you were to have this nice steak and it's however you like it and it's wonderful, but if you bring it in on the garbage can lid, right? People gonna say that's a nice steak. I don't want it because it seems to be on a garbage can lid. I'm not gonna eat it.
Yep.
So building this environment is, man, it's important. Oh my goodness, it's important. Yeah,
it's key. That's the climate and the culture. That it's you have to plate it. That's the culture.
Right.
That's key.
Oh my goodness, sir. Woo. Because I'm thinking about that. I mean, the difference in you bringing it on a nice plate and you're saying, hey, here's a wonderful steak like you wanted, and to transition that, or to make what that looks like in a school system is important. Mm-hmm. And, oh man.
So and I'll take your analogy one step further, because you and I value a steak, mm-hmm. right? There's a level of privilege in being able to value a steak, because we've got kids that haven't had steak before.
Good.
So if you bring them steak, they may not know and understand the value, because they may not have been exposed and had the opportunity to have steak on a regular basis. So how do we feed everybody?
Yeah.
So make sure that you bring the steak on that platter, but then make sure that even those that don't want steak get their burger served well.
That's good, sir. That's good. That's important, because you can't just cater to one particular group. You have to. Oh, sir, that might have to be a part two some other time. But this is good. This is good. So my question is, if you can improve anything in education in the rural America, what would that be?
If I could improve anything in education, it would be money. It would be resources, because I'm a strong believer in that organizations and systems place value where they place their money. And we have a lot of Black and brown students across the country, not just here in Allentown, but when I was doing student teaching in DC, I remember taping up the windows because it was cold in the classroom and we didn't have enough money to get those windows fixed, right? I remember the same in Detroit and in eCourse, in our urban districts that serve our disadvantaged students. And when I say disadvantaged, I mean those that are economically disadvantaged, right? Because we still have advantages with our village, but economically we may be disadvantaged. The way that we provide resources nationally to students, to children in those communities is abhorrent. I want to see us as a nation begin to invest in our children at the level that they need. So back to equity. Equity is giving you what you need when you need it. And I stole that one from the Secretary of Education, Pedro Rivera. So I stole it from him. Right, giving them what they need when they need it. That comes with a level of resource allocation nationally that has to be a greater conversation amongst all schools and all school districts.
Absolutely, because when we use that analogy of the steak, it's just going through my mind racing right now, where even giving it out is teaching them how to duplicate this behavior that we want to see in school, but also out of school as well. Because it's like you talked about, it's about building the village. And while you're building that village, people are watching. And more importantly, our children are watching all of our moves. They're watching, they're not saying nothing, but they're watching. And I've learned a lot of stuff from watching. Another person do it, now I'm in it. First, I apologize and say, I'm sorry, because I didn't know it was like that. Then number two, I'm like, all right, this is a different story. This is a different story. So our children are watching us. That's important. Yes, sir.
Yeah, they do. I went to college because my Uncle AJ went to college. I was watching and I knew I wanted to be like Uncle AJ. They're watching even when they don't say it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's and in fact, sir, let me let you know that I didn't know about Howard University. I didn't know about that. Okay, I was limited to Mississippi. You are the first person. And again, I'm not even going to tell the story that you were doing well in school. I'm not going to tell what I was doing, but I want to know that you were motivation for me as well. Because Howard University, okay, I knew the schools within Mississippi. But to think that someone from the town, the school district that I graduated from, went there, absolutely. People are watching. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So leave us with 3 words, sir. 3 words for the viewers.
Oh, wow. 3 words. My first word, and it's my favorite word, is nugatory. Nugatory means nil and of no value. So if you are working hard, but you're not working hard to support someone else, your efforts are nil. They're nugatory. It's of no value. My second word will be, again, effort. Right? It's all about putting in the work, putting in the effort to find success. And my last word will always be service. Everything that we do is in the service of others, and that commitment to ensuring that we create the village is because we serve.
Absolutely, sir. This has been a powerful, if nobody else, this has been powerful for me for tomorrow and the next week to talk to you. You've given value out. I appreciate you coming on, sharing with the viewers. much success to you moving forward in your endeavors. I'm sure that we're going to definitely hear more from you. And I look forward to another session. And anything you would like to leave with those that are viewing right now. It's your floor, sir.
Oh, again, be the village that you want for your children, for all children. That's what I'll leave you with.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for those that you have impacted and those that you're currently impacted in Allentown. Kudos to the Board of Education there. You have a great gentleman that's leading your charge. Thank you guys for viewing. See us next week as we continue talking about transforming lives. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.